Кого нет? Да. Что? Да, так слышно? О, отлично. Так, добрый день, уважаемые коллеги, друзья.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues and friends. I'm very happy to be in Bashkortostan, third or fourth time this year. We start our session today dedicated to the development of all year-round tourism in Russian regions, and we will speak about business tourism. Those who were here today in the morning, like Graham Cook said that the drop of global tourism as a result of pandemics will be around 42%, and experts expect that this figure will be bigger at the end of the year. And in the first half of this year, number of travels dropped by more than 60%. And to restore the industry to the level of 2019, it is necessary to have several years, and it will happen only in 2024. So it's a bit of a frightening reality today, but nevertheless, today we will try together with our experts to discuss the ways out in the regions. If we follow the theory of management, one of the strategies in this situation, it's diversification. So can the business tourism become a saving bridge, the platform, so that the regions would get sustainable flow of tourists and could develop further? A small remark, when we will speak about business tourism, we will think about several categories. First of all, will be corporate business trips and visiting different events. I would like to introduce our speakers. We have a very interesting panel today, which is very seldom. So today online we have Tamara Bernstein, as regional manager of ICCA. Today we have Helen Lloyd, TMI Consultancy, Alexei Kalachев, Director of National Congress-Bюро, and offline, Pavel Muzichenko, Director of Congress-Bюро Bashkortostan. Olga Filipenkova, Director of Strategic Development of Krasnaya Polyana, Dmitry Pakhomov, Director of the Department of Corporate Client S7 Airlines, and General Director of Favorite Travel. And we have expert in the hall, Albina Kildigulova, General Director of Bashkir Exhibition Company. So, friends, we have 1 hour and a half, a lot of interesting speakers, and I would be very happy if you would keep to the timing of 7 minutes. If we have questions from the hall, you can ask them at the end. So I believe we can start, and first I would like to give floor to Tamara Bernstein and ask her to say a few words how the industry of events has changed. Because in the world we have more than 12,000 different kind of congresses, so it's a huge turnover, and many regions try to get these events because it's several thousands of visitors. They come to regions and spend some money, because according to statistics, such people spend more than average tourists. So what happened this year? Most of the congresses this year were cancelled, and we don't know where it will be going in the future. Tamara, do you hear us?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I think my presentation should be uploaded now. I'm just going to wait for my slides. Thank you so much. So thank you again for having me here today. My name is Tamara Bernstein. I am the Regional Director for Europe at ECA. Next slide, please. I will go through some information with you about ECA and about how we are predicting 2021 in terms of recovery. So ECA is the International Congress and Convention Association. We have over 1,000 members in over 100 countries, and our focus is association meetings. Next slide, please. Our members are from various regions and various sectors. The way that we have it set up in terms of our sectors is that we have meeting management sectors, destination marketing, venues, support, and transport. So our members are also spread out regionally. Next slide, please. And we have regional offices everywhere in the globe. I am based in Amsterdam, and as I said, I manage Europe, and that is where our head office is. We also have offices in Latin and North America, Asia Pacific, Africa, and Middle East. Next slide, please. ECA is the association for associations. So our main tool is our database, and we have nearly 250,000 listings of association meetings. The listings that we have are mainly in the technical and in the medical field, but there are many other sectors that we have information of, and we offer all of this information as a very valuable tool for our members so that they can actually explore and research all of these potential meetings for their destinations. Next slide, please. In terms of the contribution of the meetings industry on the national economy and on a destination, we know that there is a huge impact. The turnover is very big when you look at the global meetings industry. Next slide, please. When you have an international association meeting to your destination, we know that this is a very big economic driver. In the next slide, we will see that the turnover is $1 trillion US dollars annually, and 1.5 billion participants and almost 26 million jobs globally for the global meetings industry. Now, of course, this is based on years before COVID, and we know that right now things are a little bit different.
Конечно же, мы говорим о цифрах, которые были до ковида, сейчас немножечко другие данные, но тем не менее мы вообще устраиваем новые заседания и используем те возможности, включая технические возможности, которые нам дает новая среда. То, каким образом ситуация влияет на дестинации. Конечно же, мы обращаем внимание на те вещи, которые могут стать точками роста, то есть это ваш опыт, которым вы делитесь, нетворкинг, какой-то экономический факторы, платформа, на которой вы строите свой бизнес, и тот профиль, которым вы можете похвастаться. И, разумеется, все индустрии стараются использовать тех талантов.
In terms of Russia as a destination, so I have pulled up some information from our database, and there is massive potential. You will see that in terms of the meetings that have taken place in Russia throughout the past 3 years, so 2017 to 2019, there were nearly 300 association meetings. So that is a huge impact on the destination already. But in terms of the future, we do see that there were confirmed meetings for 2020, 2021, and 2022. We assume that these have either taken place in hybrid format or will be postponed. But when you look at the potential meetings for the future, there are thousands and dozens and thousands of listings in the ECA Association database that would be potential for Russia. Now, Russia is what we call an emerging destination for this industry, and we know that there are some fantastic cities and a lot of fantastic knowledge there, and we highly encourage that you become more active in using your local ambassadors and your local champions. Next slide, please. What we call local ambassadors and local champions are actually those scientists and people in academia who are doing very interesting research or extraordinary publications about certain topics and sectors, whether this is technical or medical. And we know that these are actually individuals who can drive a bid for you to your destination and can help you win a bid and win a meeting for your destination. So we are always happy to share this information. And as I have shared before, please reach out to me after this meeting. I will be sharing my contact details if you have any questions about ICA or how you can get some more information and support there. Next slide, please. In terms of the local ambassadors and the local champions, they're very important to your destination in helping you win a bid because they have the professional knowledge, they have the experience, and they usually also have all of the know-how in the bidding process and how you can actually approach one of these bids and win a meeting for your destination. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of the future of meetings, we know that there are a lot of things that are changing now for associations, which I am sure that you have already heard and you will hear in the future. Association meetings are transforming, whether they are going hybrid or virtual, but we do know that the rotation pattern is going to change. We see that more and more associations are talking about having regional meetings or smaller local meetings. And we also know that they will be looking at new destinations. But more importantly, we know that this hybrid element is probably going to stay with us for a very long time as it actually increases the numbers for participation in a meeting and makes it more accessible to more people to have the knowledge. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of the ICA events, we have many different events throughout the year, whether these are events that are based in Europe or global events, but we have, of course, changed the way that we do things a little bit. If we can jump forward to the 2 next slides, please. So one more. Thank you. So you can see how the situation was before and how it is now. We know that with social distancing and with all the different new regulations, it's becoming a little bit complicated to have the on-site meetings that we used to. But we also know that with the vaccine coming into play and with all these new hybrid formats, we are looking at a very good future for the recovery. Next slide, please. In terms of how we have done transformation and adaptability at ICA, we have done hundreds of Zoom meetings and chapter meetings and sector meetings. And I see Alexei is on this panel as well, who has taken a very, very important part as our board member at ICA and who has also contributed to these efforts. So we have really tried to transform the way that we do things. Next slide, please. We have been navigating through this COVID crisis from March with many different hybrid meetings, and especially our ICA Congress, which took place in November. We had regional hubs and we had 1,500 participants, 500 out of which were on site and 1,000 were virtual. Next slide, please. So as I said, we had our ICA Congress in the hybrid format for the first time. It was a huge success because we had never done this. Normally the Congress would take place over a few days in a destination, but this year we had to kind of rethink and reshape how we are doing things. And we definitely were happy to see that we had so many different people joining from all over the world at the same time, all through a streaming platform. Next slide, please. Going digital is really about providing the experience, the engagement, the networking, but also how do you have that virtual presence, which I think we are all trying to solve. Next slide, please. If we could go forward another slide, please. Thank you. The key elements that we offer at ICA and that we have really come up with, and this is just to summarize, are how do you go hybrid? How do you transform what you are doing in terms of the content and the experience that you are offering, in terms of the speakers that you are bringing forward, and how do you actually engage everyone? How do you find a solution for the different time zones? How do you make everything a little bit more of an experience with the gamification? Do you use special AV and VR and technical equipment and studios? And these are all things that I think we will see long-term with us for 2021 and onward. So for anyone who wants to ask questions or follow up with me, please feel free to do so. And my contact details will be at the end of the slide in the next slide. So thank you very, very much. And I hope to meet you all in person as soon as we can.
Тамара, спасибо большое, очень интересный доклад.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting presentation. It's probably an advantage that when you're working online, you can visit so many events. If you have questions to Tamara, you can take her contact. And indeed, ECO is one of the strongest associations that promotes event industry. Going back to Tamara's presentation, Russia, despite the situation, remains to be a destination for events and business. I would like to give floor to our next speaker, Helen. She's been working, Helen Lloyd, who has been working in Russia for a couple of years, attracting clients. My question is, how is Russia perceived by clients abroad, and what do we need to change in this situation to benefit from this situation, from the current situation? What would you recommend? Unfortunately, we can't hear you. Please switch on the sound.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll give my, I think, my answer to Daria's question within the presentation about how the Russian regions can actually benefit from the new situation that the meeting and incentive industry has been impacted by recently. Could you just go to the next slide, please? Следующий слайд, пожалуйста. So I actually read a very interesting study by Euromonitor, and they've identified 4 key areas which have been impacted or are results of what has happened with COVID, and how that's making the travel industry in general much more innovative. And I'm just going to use that as the kind of base model, and then we're going to apply it to the meetings industry and see what opportunities there are specifically for the regions of Russia, which, as Tamara said, are emerging as potential new destinations for meetings and events. So basically, the kind of 4 areas that the report focused on, it was about saying about digital and sustainability. So digital and sustainability are 2 of the big innovators that have been accelerated by the COVID crisis. Digital in terms of, the fast development of everything, all of those things like virtual experiences, artificial intelligence, 5G, mobile networks, and mobility in general have been happening over the last few years, but they really have moved very, very fast because of the COVID and the fact that many people are not working in offices, they're working from home. And if they do work in an office, then we have big barriers to how we can't squeeze lots of people in together. So usually part of the workforce is working from home. If we talk about sustainability, this is probably more impactful in many European countries than potentially in Russia. And this is a very big area for the regions of Russia to take into consideration, that if sustainability was something which was being spoken about, was being considered, it's now become almost mainstream in many European countries. That means that a huge amount of attention is being put on them, whether that's the social impact of travel on the local community, whether that's the carbon tracking, through the number of flights people are taking, or whether it's just creating completely new business models. And in addition to those 2 spheres, which COVID has kind of accelerated, is the focus obviously on health, because COVID is a health issue. So the focus has moved, just from companies and making profits to putting people first, and the focus on safety and hygiene in general. And then the fourth area is consumer demand. So how have consumer demands actually changed during the COVID crisis? And in general, what we see, because of the economic impact of COVID, people have become, they are trading down. It means that they're not borrowing and spending more than they could, as they might have done in the past. So they're looking for deals and incentives. But at the same time, they want more personalization. They want real-time information. This means that they want the information which is relevant almost immediately. And that's because of the ever-changing situation and impact that COVID has had on travel, whether we need to go into quarantine to visit a certain destination, whether we need to get a COVID certificate before we arrive, or we will get one when we get there within 3 days. So those laws have been changing all the time. And that's why the real-time information is super required at the moment, as well as the flexibility. So people need to have the flexibility that they can cancel something or change something with relatively little notice compared to before. And of course, they want affordable luxury. It's not to say that everyone's sustainable and they're going to go camping. They want glamping, and they want a more sort of sustainable and affordable luxury, which is more inclusive. So around those four themes, we can look about now, if we can go to the next slide, we can see their impact on the business travel and meetings industry. Следующий слайд, пожалуйста. Okay, I think it's coming shortly. No, go back a few slides. Обратно, пожалуйста. Следующий должен быть сейчас. Is there another slide there? Or not? Okay, well, I will continue speaking. So basically, if we look at how this has impacted business travel and the meetings industry, we know that digital is one of the key components that has impacted us, especially in terms of the technological developments. And I'm sure it's a theme that you've already spoke about a lot, but the hybrid event has emerged and is very likely to stay. And this is because it's more inclusive, it's much more sustainable in many ways. People don't have to travel thousands of miles in order to get together. And in general, there are certain, positive components of the virtual event that allow people not to have to travel during their weekends or during their family time. So they maybe get a better work-life balance in their lives. However, hybrid events are not going to be the final solution. They probably will be part of the solution, but definitely they cannot provide the spontaneity, the passion, the direct contact that obviously a live event can happen. So what we're looking at is the potential that some events will be partly hybrid, or maybe the first day will be hybrid. So the hybridness will allow just a bigger audience, in fact, to attend and to benefit from a meeting. But we don't see this as a complete replacement, because personal relations, and especially people in the travel industry know this very well, it's absolutely key. And also I'd like to talk a little bit about the emergence and the role of social communities. And this is a kind of new technology which is being developed and is starting to roll out this year. So it's basically like a private social media network. So you can actually communicate with your members whether you have an event or not. And the idea is that, of course, you will have events, but the social community allows you to collaborate and communicate with them before the event actually starts, as well at the end of the event, and well as between events, because we all know that events are usually to discuss some joint project or proposition, and a social community allows us to kind of continue that dialogue. So it's basically like a private social media set. So nobody else has access to it except for you, whether you're the convention bureau, whether you're the association. And this is a part of the kind of digital revolution which is taking part. And then if we look at the I did have a small case study, but I think it's not in this presentation, but not to worry. And I would also like to say about the sustainability and how this will impact in probably encouraging more domestic meetings within Russia and in most countries, but especially Russia because it's such a big country. I think many people went on holiday in Russia domestically this year that hadn't done for maybe 10 or 15 years. And they were mainly impressed and surprised. And this will probably give confidence to companies to organize meetings in a different region of Russia rather than necessarily going abroad. And there'll definitely be greater pressure on everyone to think about the social impact of travel. Both the meetings and events industry, and looking at the potential there for positioning the Russian regions for helping with that. And actually you have a big advantage in Russia because you have a huge and extensive network of trains, which is certainly going to be one of the preferred transport ways that people will move if it's possible. And your trains are integrated with European networks and with some of the Asian networks. So that's a huge advantage for you. And if we go on to the last slide, I want to just talk a little bit more about the opportunities that are specific to Russia. So we already acknowledge that the hybrid event is here to stay. It won't be the only kind of event, but if the Russian regions are well equipped and experienced at dealing with hybrid events, you can actually share this with international associations and different corporations that potentially may be interested in organizing a live event in Russia, but they may initially organize a hybrid event. And by having that technology and maybe being more price competitive than some of the more established destinations, this can be a way for you to enter the international meetings market. We talked about sustainability already and the carbon footprint, where Russia is in an advantageous position, depending on where you're located, obviously. I think that the trend that people will go more local or regional in terms of events, so they may not fly from Europe to Singapore, but they may well be happy enough to fly to Kaliningrad or to Yekaterinburg or somewhere that's not, 10 or 15 hours away. And so I think look firstly at the regions around where Russia is. So look to your neighbors, look to countries that are nearby, because you may have certain advantages there. I think the safety and hygiene component is only really relevant in the short term, because obviously we're all looking at the vaccine now. Russia's rolled it out, the UK's rolled it out, the rest of the EU is likely to roll it out before the end of the year. And the US as well, I think, is looking very seriously at some vaccinations. So once the vaccination process is rolled out, it's very important that Russia is able to say that they are now COVID-free, or that they have the advantage of having their own vaccination program and being faster and more effective, potentially, than some of your competitors who don't have their own vaccine and have to wait in a queue to get access to that. So that's something also to talk about. And certainly places like Novosibirsk and Siberia, which is the heart of where that vaccine was actually originated, can also boast about those. And then finally, if we talk about the consumer demands, the Russian regions are relatively new, they're emerging, and they can be more competitive than new, more established and well-known destinations. We're not going to talk about cheap, we're going to talk about good value and good experiences. And finally, you have the flexibility, because you're relatively new, you have the flexibility to build new business models. So you don't necessarily...
Одна минута буквально. Спасибо.
Yep, I think I'm finishing there. And the final word would be to focus on the affordable luxury, because Russia has many high standards and high, it has a highly educated population. So you can really take advantage of some of these new trends, which will be much more difficult to do in a more established and well-known destination. And that's it. Thank you very much for the time. And if you go to the final slide, there is my contact details if you'd like to contact me. Thank you.
Спасибо большое, Helen.
Thank you very much, Helen. So the trends that you highlighted in your presentation It's new regions, new technologies, sustainable development, health issues, and consumer demands. Okay, I would like to give floor to Alexey Kalachov, Director of National Congress-Büro, because we've spoken a lot about how Russian regions can move on, and then says that there is potential. So how do you evaluate possibilities for Russia on international events? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. While we're waiting in the presentation, I would like to say, to greet everyone once again. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it offline to be present in the event, but I'm very happy to see all of you who are in Ufa, and my colleagues and friends who are online with me today. Colleagues, I hope that very soon we will be back to our original format. My previous colleagues and speakers talked a lot about it, and especially about vaccination, and I hope it will be spread very rapidly and will stop this this negative dynamic that occupied the whole world. So thank you very much once again for the invitation. Thanks to ICCA, our partner, so that you could conduct such an event together with us. Answering your question, I would like to start, Daria, with the evaluation that world travel and tourism, what gives, according to 2019, the contribution of tourism into world global GDP made practically trillions of dollars, and the share of business tourism is 1/5 around from the total turnover. Thanks to the travelers who made business trips to attend business events. Of course, in times of restrictions and lockdown connected with pandemics, of course, affected the conditions of event industry and business tourism as one of its parts. According to prognosis of experts, the drop of world tourism industry will be more than 60%. It will touch the segment of business trips. It is due to the drop of volume of events because of the lockdown and limitations that we have today. According to ICCA, the amount of international congress in the world connected with cancellation dropped by 23%. In Russia, according to totals of 2020, we expect drop of event markets, and the figure is around 70%. Can be 70%. The losses, if we speak about the losses of event industry in the world scale, they are evaluated with hundreds of billions of dollars. If we spread it by geography, so in Europe it's practically 60%, more than 65%. It's Northern America and Asian Pacific region is around $35 billion. What the Russian statistics say, we have some figures here on the screen. In the period from January to June 2020, our citizens made 62% less trips. The huge drop happened in the second quarter, which made practically 97%. The damage, the loss of event industry can be evaluated at 70-80% of the annual volume, and unfortunately the negative predictions coming true that were formed at the beginning of the year, in March and April. During the preparation for exhibitions in autumn 2020, we see the situation that they are filled only by 30 to 40% from the previous volume. If we speak about restoration of event industry, it would be possible to speak about it only by the end of 2021, and we have a lot of but here. It will depend on opening frontiers and borders between the countries. We understand that closed borders, they exclude a lot of visitors, and of course it will depend on how the epidemic situation will develop in the country and in the whole world in general. The biggest events this year were conducted in online format. You can see them on the screen. Tamara told about ICCA Congress. That was online as well, but the period of its conduction was increased, and the number of participants, as far as I know, exceeded all other previous many times in comparison with previous periods, and some other associations joined participation in ICCA Congress. I would like to remind you that I'm still member of board of directors of ICCA, and we also, during pandemics, together with my colleagues from other countries, conducted a lot of educational events and sessions that were oriented on our target audience. It's destination marketing center. According to evaluations of experts, one of the reasons, among the reasons, if we speak about reasons that prevent or will prevent a restoration of business tourism, we can single out the following. So obviously it's the borders that will be still remain closed, and of course restrictions on flights. 85% of respondent companies singled out this reason. Limitations introduced in regions of the Russian Federation. It's around 70% of companies singled out this factor. Hard sanitary epidemiological standards of organization of work, preventing conduction of meetings. It's more than 45% singled out this reason. And generally, the reason that I will name right now is the fact that I will name right now. It will be still increasing with the course of time. It's optimization of costs for traveling, because all the economic indicators fall down. And if we speak about how the company will think of the costs, its limitations will still remain and will increase, in my understanding. There will be more companies that will keep and try to save and optimize their costs, their expenses. And 1/3 of the market players, for the third of the market share, there was a restriction on conducting public events. If we speak about restoration in this segment, in business tourism is happening slower than in the sector of individual tourism. Companies limit the number of business trips to lower the risk of getting infected. And nevertheless, the flow of business tourists went down, for example, in St. Petersburg, by 90%, but at the same time became the only segment that sustained hotel owners during restriction times. According to Finam statistics. According to experts, the business tourism in general is gradually getting restored. The number of bookings in hotels in August was 47%. If we compare with the same period of last year, it's connected with that the stress was aimed at development of home tourism. And in comparison with July, we can see a growth of demand by 22% approximately. Top 10 most demanded cities for business trips are, you can see them on the screen. Of course, it's Ufa, where you are right now. It's in top 10 most demanded cities for business trips, and today's event is the proof for that. Colleagues, since event industry is a key driver of business flow of business tourists, and in this case, the data of rating of event potential is still actual, they're still relevant. They're conducted annually by exhibition center RNC. The results of this rating, Alexei, sorry, but since we're pressed for time today, can I ask you what Конгресс-Бюро does in this situation? What does it offer to the regions? Yes, of course, I understand that I'm out of the schedule. In this situation, we conduct complex work, but taking into consideration that we have pandemics, created conditions to focus on work with regions, and we initiated this kind of work in National Congress-Bureau in cooperation with the regions. Please, can I have the slide about the event passport? Within this cooperation, we started to develop event passport of the region that allow systematize and generalize all the information, all the relevant information about the region, its promotion. This information and materials, in most cases, we didn't have it. We didn't used to have it. It's a new product that allows to come prepared for the foreign markets to demonstrate the potential, the opportunities that we have in the regions, and they're very, very huge, but nobody knows about them. So we concentrated on this work, and today we have several passports ready for several regions. It's Sverdlovsk region, Krasnodarsky Krai, Samara region, and we finished Kamchatsky Krai last year and presented them on East Economic Forum. So this is a huge work that we continued and reinforced within this cooperation and this lockdown that we were suffering from. But it's very important because the trend today in touristic sphere, the stress is made to the development of home tourism. We believe that this work will be demanded in a certain period of time when we will be back to our normal formats of organizing and conducting events in offline and giving applications today together with regions. We entering absolutely a new quality level because we're becoming more competitive, and this product is very important. So I will repeat myself, and we will continue this work with other regions, with our partners that we had concluded agreements in previous times. So this is one of the examples of our plan and how do we develop and support business tourism in our country. Thank you very much, Alexei.
Паспорта могут быть востребованы не только зарубежными организаторам мероприятий. Они, в общем, наверное, пригодятся и тем, кто и внутренним корпоративным клиентам, которые перемещаются из регионов для проведения собственных мероприятий. Это тоже потенциал для регионов. Я бы хотела в этой связи предоставить слово Елене Ублиевой, пиар-директору компании «Экспофорум». Также наш спикер находится онлайн. Елена, я знаю, что некоторое время назад Экспофорум подсчитывал тот поток деловых туристов.
Expo4 has been generating some conferences. St. Petersburg is #1 in events in Russia. What dynamics are you observing now, and what are your focuses? Thank you very much. Hello, Ufa. You have wonderful winter. You have wonderful online session. I'm offline, unfortunately. In St. Petersburg, we're in very difficult situation. As the governor said, we're one step away from lockdown. The epidemic situation is very serious, is very gruesome. And in terms of event tourism and business tourism, Rosturism said that the measures taken in St. Petersburg are quite critical. As Alexei has shown, it's been leading in pandemics. And let's hope, though, that it's going to be better soon. The level of event tourism, it's a matter of business activity in the whole region. This segment is growing as a tourist flow, and we have estimated that from the 7-8 millions of tourists coming to St. Petersburg every year, 1 or 2 millions are business tourists. The task of the company that is engaged in this sphere is very important. We're minimizing the load in the high seasons. We have overbooked hotels in summer. Business tourism straightens out this situation. Business tourists are also very profitable for economy because business tourists develops competences, spends more time, and so on. Business tourism is one of the priority trends. It's growing, but not as fast as we want. The strategic task, our KPI should be 7.8%, so we should speed up. Several thousand events happen in St. Petersburg, but only 10 congresses with 3,000 plus people. So our task is to increase the number of the top tier events. This is a quality thing. It really is a demanding thing because different events are financed from different funds. In 2020, everything by 2020 we stopped everything. In 2019, in Expo4, we had 3 rotated events, and up to 2024 we'll have 10 more. But as for the parameters, the Congress is not only about the representative business, but it's also about the income, because every business tourist brings some money, and in Expo4 is visited by 1 or 2 million visitors, and 40% of them are foreign tourists, and there are certain parameters, indicators that one tourist spends $700. The growth of competences in St. Petersburg is also important. We're happy, for instance, that we have an Arctic forum, where we can talk about St. Petersburg as an Arctic centers and one of the leading researchers of Arctic topics. We also have other specialized events important as an event that develops skills. Third, it's important that we're promoting St. Petersburg on the international agenda. Since we are blocked in terms of information dissemination, we can also say that because we have almost stopped our activities, but when we function actively, when we function normally, Expo Forum also pays money up to 285 million rubles. The federal budget is and 700 million rubles to federal budget. And we have calculated that 61,000 jobs are generated during the business events. I would like to mention one more initiative, which is going to be interesting for our people, the ambassadors program, and the Expo Forum president is one of the first ambassadors, and due to his initiative in 2018, we have hosted the first global congress, and the program of ambassadors, which had been issued as a result of three-part program, we will host the rotated events in 2024-26. As for the business tourists, we have also the development of this area can give other things. In 2025, we have opened a Chinese business center, and since day one, we have signed several major economic conditions. That is an Eastern vector, and it became very, very important. We have had a lot of delegations from China. We have had several key projects in the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, and we're working not only with China, but also with the Latin American and European countries. And this year, our Director General, President of the exhibition, President, became the Consulate of Ecuador. The Expo Forum International has several important provisions. We need to make an internal market of services for world-class congresses. This is a good trend, but but our task is to develop the specialized events with other companies too. When there are 2 and 3 big congresses form 80% of the events of the budget. But I think that it can be achieved when we have world congresses. And according to the development strategy of Expo Forum, yes, I'm finishing. 80 to 20. It's in good years, right? Yes, it's in good years. As for the next 2-3 years, what's your focus, in your opinion? What will the Expo Forum see in terms of this ratio? In 2020, we had quite a few congresses planned. Unfortunately, we are now in a situation when congresses are moved. I'm not sure what's going to happen, and I hope that in the nearest future we will host them. You know that we will have world skill events and other major events, but the situation with the international congresses is difficult because it's the organizer who decides on that, and it's usually a decision not to host events. So far, we are focusing events for the second part of the next year. We're now planning our own events for March, but it depends. It's going to depend on the situation. As for the rotating events, what we have planned to 2020 is going to what has been planned for 2022 has moved to 2023. I know that you're running to the next event. Thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, not offline, but anyways, thank you.
Coming to the experience of regions, the experience of St. Petersburg was mentioned. I'm interested in the experience of Bashkortostan, so the question will be to you. Republic was one of the first who conducted huge international online events. Yeah, it was in April, yeah? Yes, that was end of April. And I believe that was a blast, because nobody has done that before, even in America. And we were the first. You were the first who made offline events. Not exactly because it was a book forum in Moscow was the first one, but we made the first urban business forum. So I have a question. In this pandemic situation that we had not a very positive forecast of our colleagues concerning event business, what is the strategy in Bashkortostan? Why do we need online events? Stop. We had only one event to make hype. It was first event in April. Then all other events were in hybrid format. What is the hybrid format? It's the same as you came here. You came here. You will spend money here. You booked the hotel room. But if we take International Business Week, so the agreement at the end of the forum accounted, so we don't know a total sum of money, but if we have certain limitations, not more than 150 people on the platform, so it's very strict. So we have 4 days, 4 by 4. It's a lot of people plus technical personnel that came from other regions, and we have 800 people coming here. Well, this is not bad. So coming back to the strategy, that you also have postponed events like in St. Petersburg that were in 21st year. No, right now we're using the opportunity that our management, government of the region, we understand clearly that exhibitions and congresses, they bring profits, they bring investments into the region, and that's why this year I can say it honestly, because I've been here for 2 months. By the end of the year, all the events were prohibited. Some were cancelled, like everywhere else, but the events that are important and key for the regions, they remain. Just a few events, including International Business Week. So we look optimistically into the next year, and in January we will have Work Travel Technology Awards conference that was named. Mr. Cook came here to sign the agreement. Next award will be in summer. World Travel Awards Europe. It will be held here in Ufa in summer, but we don't know the dates yet. And then we have Folkloriad. What is Folkloriad? It's a kind of Olympic Games, because people from all over the world will come here in summer, because we are sure that there will be will be less limitation. There will be different ensembles together with a lot of journalists will come. And next we are going to have final of national final of world skills. It will be at the end of July, so there will be around 2,500 participants. So I believe that the next year will start in a positive manner, but nevertheless we got used to work in hybrid format. And I remember, Daria, we were sitting together with you on the other side on Trans-Urals Forum. And I have a good news. You can congratulate me that because Republic of Bashkortostan in 11 nominations applied for Russian event awards in Yekaterinburg from 8 to 10. And half an hour ago I was written that the best mice event, we got Grand Prix. It's the Trans-Ural Forum. You didn't stay within the framework of this event. We had a gastro festival next day, where we shared food and culture, Bashkir culture to our guests, and it got the special prize. So it's developing. People will have a look. People will come here and try it. So you look positively into the future. I'm always optimistic. I'm not only here heading Congress-Büro, but I also have my own company that builds exhibit objects in St. Petersburg. It works in St. Petersburg and Moscow. And when people ask me, how are you doing? I just recall old Soviet anecdote when Gorbachev comes to kolkhoz, or collective farm, and he's joking, how do you live? Joking, Mikhail Sergeyevich, we live a good life, joking, the participants of this kolkhoz. So I see Albina here, and she's optimistic about the future, but we understand. I came to Congress exhibition industry in 2000, and the quality of events I can tell you about Moscow and St. Petersburg. In 2001, exhibitions and forums were better than now. But there is one very good opportunity for the Republic of Bashkortostan in it, because in St. Petersburg or in Moscow, even in Sochi, it was very developed. Right now, they've thrown back 20 years, and Republic of Bashkortostan, they were lagging behind a bit, but right now we start all together. We are from the same line, and of course we will be ahead of everyone. Of course, you can understand that in any crisis you can find a positive element. Yes, I gave an interview yesterday, and if we move in the same pace, you look, first online forum, the first business event offline. Right now, when everyone is sleeping, we're working here. So I believe in 10 years we will reach Dubai level. Today we had 30 years to be on the same international level. Yeah, in Sibai we will build Dubai. So it can be fixed and noted that in 10, 30 years, well, if hospitals are built in 55 days and with towels and doctors within 55 days, so what can we say about the exhibition center? We have a very ambitious task. We don't know about the world skills. Maybe we will have enough time to build a small oriental complex. Can I give word to Albina, director of Bashkir Exhibition Company? So please give her the microphone. So how is it going with you? You are a practical worker, so how do you feel yourself right now? Good afternoon, everyone. I've listened to speakers online. I listened to Pavel. It's different speeches a bit. There was a bit of a, pessimistic approach, and we are more optimistic. We are the same region in Russia where we have epidemics, but there is an attitude of the government to the events, and we all understand what is business tourism. Business tourism is exhibitions, forums, events, congresses, and this industry that gives money and work to many, many other industries. And I can tell you that somebody, when everything will go down, the business tourism will remain, because this is the industry that influences on human factor. Business tourism, commercial people, they will be in difficult situation, but if you tell him that there will be victory there, he will go there anyway, by all means of transports. Why? Because it will give development to business. It will give opportunities for the company to develop and not to die in a hard time, because he will get the energy surcharge, because he will find new partners, because he will meet the same people like he is who want to develop. And all these and my experience that I have during these pandemics speaks that business tourism will survive and will give opportunities to regions, because I separate Moscow and capital cities and other regions. It will give opportunity to develop to regions, as Pavel said, to move, to promote the region. When everyone is lying and expecting for something, when somebody stands in front, people remember that, and people come here, and people trust us already. I can tell you that during pandemics, we sat only 2 or 3 months in the lockdown, I mean the companies. And after that, I understood if we don't start working on the 1st June, then that will be the end. Nobody will survive, because people in the company will lose optimistic mood. And after 2 months of work, we worked 2 or 3 days a week. In August, we had first fairs. After the trading malls were opened, we understood that fairs is a kind of activity, and people from other regions came here for the fairs. It was not only from Bashkortostan. People want to work, people want to move. They must be given just the opportunity, and say that exhibitions of business tourism is a territory of safety, because it's very easy to follow all the regulations. But if you come with a PCR note, then in 99% it will be safe. In September, since September, we have conducted 4 huge events. Pavel works in Congress industry of the Republic. We work in exhibition platform. We have exhibition center. Yes, it's not very big for world scales, but we conducted events that we moved from previous times. We had gas forum, construction forum, and energy forum. More than 400 companies visited, 45 regions of Russia. And first time in our exhibitions, we had more regional companies than local Bashkirian companies. So what we are talking about is business tourism, because the region attracted. We had interview with the governmental bodies, and all their action. They say that we work on this. We don't have increase in infections. The hotels are open, restaurants are open, all directions are working. Within these forums, we've conducted more than 50 business conferences. More than 550 speakers participated offline and online, and more than 9,000 people listening. Of course, the biggest number was online, but I can tell you that business tourism will survive, and we must contribute to it, because it gives the development to our industry and gives work to our company, and our company comprises a lot of people who work for us, but we are all connected with the other industries, hotels, restaurants, taxi, hairdressers. Even here today, how many people work here today from other industries? So only positive approach, and try to be optimistic. It's worth applause. And today it was said that we are open, please come for New Year, why not? Coming back to Krasnodar region and Sochi, what's the situation with you? Have you felt the same opportunities? Yes, the region is very popular for business events, but right now we have seen a new format, that hybrid events, and we call it workation, when people come with family that can work online. There's possibility to work in the conference, in Zoom, and some others, in premises that the companies were used in conference halls in hotels, business negotiating rooms, and to conduct and spend some time with the family. So it's kind of a combination. I have a presentation I can show you briefly if the colleagues will switch it on and give me the clicker. No, I was taken off. And I believe any kind of crisis gives opportunities. It's a trivial phrase, but if you see these opportunities and start using them, everything will be very positive. Okay? Yeah. In the presentation, we have a huge platform, 3,000 rooms, huge infrastructure for business events, for forums and congresses. So before pandemics, we had a lot of them in the region. We have some restrictions on conduction of events, no more than 100 people. So if you're saying here 150 people, in Krasnodar region, it's no more than 100. So all the trends that you have, safety, all the regulations of Rospotrebnadzor, we follow that, the format of online work or remote work. We have a few cases when the companies bought out or booked rooms for their workers, and the only request was to have high-speed internet, wideband internet, and the department of the company that can work online. They came, and around 300 people from one company spent 1 month in the resort. On the one hand, it's a possibility to work online, and a bonus from the company to their employees, a social pack, so to say. One of the trends that we saw is the health format. That the company chooses mountains with clean air to send employees so they would work there, and at the same time they improve their health. They undergo some special treatment in medical blocks, so it's a combined work and family and health all together. The next thing is that we're talking about, it's a hybrid events, and we have a small statistics. Since the resort was open after 3 months lockdown, we have conducted more than 150 events. When we gathered the statistics to today's speech, for me it was a certain discovery, because the companies give less and less budgets, but the hybrid format allows to conduct meeting of board of directors or some departments, so some divisions or divisions, they come out and make conferences on Zoom platform. So it all works, and I believe the regions must of touristic destination just make opportunities. If we give these opportunities, the events will remain. And for us, I believe the biggest minus of this year is that we haven't conducted a number of events that we planned with 1,000 plus visitors. Every year we have such events, but this year, unfortunately, they didn't happen. And these formats will be, I believe we can be back only in 2022 to this format, not in 2021. But thanks to these small-scale events, we can sustain this direction and to have this out-of-season load, because the word season this year is a bit strange, because summer moved to autumn and the guests are coming, and the segment mice is substituted with just guests of IT tourism. But anyway, it's a good direction, and we will develop it further on, taking into consideration all the situation that will be formed. That's about it. It's a very interesting experience. A few months ago, we talked with ISIN representatives, and they had a presumption that those companies who conducted their corporate events abroad during these pandemics, they will switch to home market. Do you have this kind of feeling or maybe examples? Yes, we have some companies that first time in history this year chose our platform for hybrid format events. It's foreign companies, it's pharmaceutical companies, foreign IT companies that previously haven't conducted anything in Russia, no business events. Do you think it's a sustainable trend? I believe that next year will prolong this trend, but what will be in 2022, I guess it's very hard to say, but for the next year we have applications for April and May from companies to conduct such events or workation when we combine vacation and work. So we have applications for different format. Everything depends on how fast the air correspondence will be open and the borders will be open. So I would like to give floor to Dmitry.
2020 is the worst year for aviation because business tourism is highly connected to aviation. So what are your prospects in Russia? Are there any opportunities in this situation? Indeed, 2020 is defined as the worst aviation for civic aviation. I think civic aviation is an indicator of the economic situation. When the economy is growing, aviation is growing too. When crises happen, aviation is the first industry to react negatively. I can give you several figures. Could you switch on my presentation? Won't work. Here we have statistics from IATA on internal flights at different levels, different markets. We know that we're not flying internationally. All countries close down their borders. And you can see from this graph that the drop was heavy earlier this year. The domestic flights fell down, and look at the dynamics. And Russia is growing faster than other countries. Even if you take S7 statistics, August and September was +5, +7 increase compared to last year. Everyone who went abroad, who went internationally last year, they traveled within Russia. There is no Europe here, there is no Latin America here, there is no Asia. So these are the markets that simply fell down. If Latvia is closed, it doesn't have internal market. It only flies overseas. This graph reflects the pessimism of previous speakers. Their pessimism concerning the market. And it also explains the optimism that we have here. We're lucky to have a big country and we have domestic demand. Aviation needs to be saved as well, of course. Business activity. Let me specify that when we say business passenger, it's not just a passenger who goes to a conference. It's also people who go on shifts, going on business trips, students who travel to their universities. There are two graphs here, two pies. The left one is 2019. As we see our passenger, it says 7 statistics. The right column is what we actually have in the 9 months of 2020. It's 9 months in 2019 and 9 months in 2020. So many industries just stopped flying, such as telecom, IT. They just stopped. But the positive trend is that builders are actually increasing the volumes. Our national projects in Talakan, Blagoveshchensk, Murmansk, and the flow of people decreased in the peak of the pandemic, but now it's recovering actively and developing. For us, we have always been an aircraft company with a good network, a traditional company, and the market has never seen us as chartered. During the pandemic, we have requests from corporate customers who said that for us it's important that these workers don't have to go, don't get locked down. We need to ship them separately. And it became for us a new business. We're working in this field, we're developing this field now actively. And almost every 10th passenger is a charter passenger. Of course, safety. The safety has always been important in civic aviation. Civic aviation is built around safety, but now we're talking about safety in the times of pandemic. We are the first, among the first in Russia to establish a 7-care fly with safety program. There was shortage of masks and antiseptics, and provided our passengers with all the necessary things. We have a new product for corporate market. For quite a few years, we had disagreements within the company. For Airbus A319, we made a project, Airbus Extra Edition. We have 70 economic and 24 business seats. As I said, Uganda removed business class. They have only the first and economic class. Is it vice versa here? As a former Lufthansa employee, let me tell you, Lufthansa, 95% of business, aviation business, is focused on the long-term flights. As I said earlier, and as you have seen, Lufthansa is in a difficult situation now. In the press, they said that they decreased the fleet from 770 to 160. flights, planes. They had 20 planes, double-deck planes. They refuse to use them because they don't have passengers. And as you see, we have a domestic market, and we are looking for new niches. And this project that I've started, it's going to be relevantly well demanded. We already have two planes. Sports teams hockey teams are also flying. This format up to 100 seats is going to be popular in corporate environment as well, as soon as the limits will be removed. Then can I give floor to Anicia? Because we have started talking about inner tourism, and I know that Anicia travels extensively. I know that you came here from Kamchatka. Given that you have experience in this field, what's your forecast for corporate market? Do they have any opportunities? Could you please switch on my presentation? Hello, colleagues. Let me thank the audience. They are still alive. I think that you're yawning sometimes, but we just don't see it because you're in masks. We have discussed 2021 strategy, what to do in the industry. I represent business, and it's great to have businessmen in the panel who doesn't have a position in Congress-Bureau and who doesn't move from St. Petersburg to Ufa. We are simple business. What do we do in this situation? The results of the pandemic for the industry is hybrid formats when we hold events online plus offline. We understood that it's possible to increase the number of speakers from abroad. It was easier to agree with them. It's cheaper, and they are ready to participate. But it's a double-edged sword, because when we have too many online events, the budget is decreasing. So we can say that we saved the budget, saved the event, but the budget drops. When the client says, I have 1,000 events and they all leave and eat, and in the pandemic, you says that there are 100 events and the rest is online. Of course, we need perfect the internet, but still the budget decreases. But at least it's good that the project wasn't cancelled, that we still have something to work with. I like the conclusion made by a lot of companies, and I would like to share it. And here we have a growth point for everyone. I'm flying a lot from around the world because we make events for foreign customers in Russia. So my main target is to come to international event and to convince them to work with me. And when we meet colleagues who make similar business worldwide, the French usually say, you know, we just don't. Well, you think that the organizer is the one who orders the table. The organizer is the one who makes a creative solution, who collects speakers and attracts the audience, so that people would grab some speakers with a cell phone. Not really. It doesn't happen in Russian. It depends. It really depends on the budget. Agenda is usually for free. Now this is changing. There's a new format with the content. There are customers who ask for a good agenda, international speakers, and they're ready to pay for it because we are changing the values. They pay us for creative solutions. You can hold events, but you can only agree on them. Expo Forum didn't share with it. They have agreed 3 events when the limit was 50 people in St. Petersburg. In Ufa, we have 150 limit, but in St. Petersburg, the limit for all the formats of events is 50 people, and it's been until yesterday. Now it's 25 people, the limit of people. Expo Forum managed to convince that the exhibition and conferences are different, and in exhibition you are not in the same zone, and they held 3 exhibitions earlier in December when the official limit was 50 people. Everything is possible. You can just need to communicate with the regulatory organizations. And I think that all the organizers now know who Rospotrebnadzor is, a controlling body. The social distance is everywhere now in all the exhibition platforms. And here we also they also said that you have to disinfect yourself in the cabin here. And very soon we will be able to hold these events, and these are new opportunities for customers, because earlier they asked me how much does it they used to ask me how much it costs in Sochi, Kazan, Moscow. Now they ask how many people can you have in Sochi, Kazan, and St. Petersburg, and so on. Now it's an opportunity for Ufa, because we will say that you can hold an event with up to 150 people. We were referred to creative industries. It means that we will maybe have some measures of state support and regulatory initiative. It's been expanded. We will have more opportunities because business tourism is creative industry, and creative tourism is going to be part of it. It's a big agenda for 2021, and I think that we should think about it, because Russia is a country of intellectuals. We have great intellectual clusters, and if you attract events because we have smart scientists, I believe that it's going to be a good solution for us. Cooperation of the industry participants is also important, because National Congress-Bureau, Rostourism, and other entities, when we unite all together, it's going to be a good solution for us. The new formats that we have tested is ITB Asia, South Asia, India, WTM, London were online. Alexei Kalachev has already mentioned that. I would like to thank his team, because we worked with his team in these exhibitions. This is how it looked like. These are very few events when buyers came, and half of the buyers didn't come. But I think that these are the first step-by-step events, progresses. The failures of ITB Asia show that offline will go back, and or it can be also a hybrid. There's also feedback that offline is better In business media roadshow were organized by Russian Export Center and the project office in Moscow. We have had offline, modified online, offline format. Up to 35% of business events were offline and online. This is a positive, more or less, positive feedback. We have saved up to 35% of events. And these things should inspire us, because I think that the industry of business events will change. It will not disappear. It will use the best practices from the pandemics. We're going to live together with the hybrid. We will have more numbers, more amount of events, because online allows people to participate. But our task is to understand, to be a part of this trend, to change our business models, maybe reformat our teams. Unfortunately, I regret to say that a part of our sales was removed, was cut down, but IT has grown, and this is maybe the trend of the 2021. We know that we need IT more than sales and production. They will have to be cut down. This is the market. I hope that we will recover. In order to continue smiling like me, you just need to understand the growth point. We will continue working with the regions where you can hold events with up to 150 people. Thank you for a positive ending. Those who are online listening to us, they see that there are a lot of positive things. May I ask you to make a summary of our session and recommendations for the regions, just 5-7 minutes. What should the regions do and market participants do for this positive mood to continue? Because the different forecasts for the next year, that is going to be good and it's going to be bad. On your side, what would you recommend? Would you please switch on the presentation? And my presentation will unite everything that had been said before. And the first trend is now, of course, the unification, not only in tour industry, but also from the viewpoint of solutions in other industries.
We, together with National Academy of Management and International Creative Industry, with Boiling Point Goodies, with Center of Positive Technologies, with some public organizations, we created a project that is called Tool Driver, and this project is the development of region through touristic industry. Through touristic industry, yes. So we kill 2 rabbits with a stone. So we raise economy and develop the region, and on the other hand, we develop a touristic industry. What are the 5 key formats here? The stress is made on strategies of X, and here we know C is dealing with the development of the region, and in this block we would like to integrate touristic industry, tourism, and do it mutually. In my understanding, this is the major trend, this is the key trend that will allow us to survive in this format, but not only to survive, but to change mentality, so to say, and find those growth points that will allow us to develop, and very fast, into within very short period of time. And you said, thanks to pandemics, they built a hospital within 55 days infectious disease hospital within 55 days. Some huge objects that would be built for a long time previously, and this is the Russian mentality. Until something happens, we don't do anything. We're very relaxed. But once we start uniting, and we do start switch our brain in creative mode. So, and we can be in the avant-garde of the planet. So the presentation is big. I will speak briefly, not to occupy time. We have three complex tasks. It's generation, club of thinking, and generation can be in regions. In some regions it can be more active or less active. We understand that each system has its own growth points and its values. And of course, online format allows to exchange and broadcast these things very fast right now. So we can take experience of Krasnaya Polyana right now and develop destinations in other regions according to the same structure. Or we can take some peculiarities. The region will make itself, but the structure gives a possibility not only to orient, but to start switching on all the components of the system very, very fast. The second is acceleration, and all the educational projects go here. Industry of creative hospitality is the driver, the engine of forming and generating new educational programs that can be also transmitted to other regions. And the implementation, it's different investment schools and institutes that help through different financial models. They help to implement the projects that we have. We have a lot of resources in the regions, but today, one of the roundtables today, I asked the question, what prevents to find the solution? No. The final aim is one, to develop, but inside we have different systems. They work differently. The state has one system, the business has another system, and public organizations, they have the third system. So we have to unite them so that they can be working together and see the image of the future where we need to be, and to work on these points that we need to build. First thing or second thing. So the implementation is important. We need support, and I believe that if we agree with the society in this case, we would find resources within the region, and if the region will be attractive, and we're talking here about packaging of the region. Why America is so good in this sense? America, in every person in mentality has the notion that if you haven't visited Alaska or Hawaii, then you lived your life in vain. Our country is very huge and, of course, very diverse. And here, I believe it's very important to create very fast a certain tool or mechanism that will allow people to know what there is in Bashkortostan, what there is in Kamchatka, what objects, and so on. Some kind of a unified system. And tool driver, this project allows through this allows to create this agreement through this boiling points through the regions. So this is my suggestion on the one hand, and on the other hand, we don't speak about business tourism as industry today is going down. to the cemetery? No. On the opposite. In our work group, together with the head of the work group, Сильная Россия, on developing of home tourism in Russian Federation, we discussed recently the question of what we should expect. Should we expect till 2024? That's very optimistic forecast about that everything will be open by the mid-2021. No, it won't be this way. So probably, yes, it will be 2024 in the best scenario. And I think it will not fit everyone. I mean, the story with the business tourism, every region should define itself, whether it's his strategy or not. But combining everything that was mentioned today, so we have a few ingredients. This is safety, unification on local level of players and the state, new technologies that we were speaking about today. Today we have offline, online events. It's sustainable growth and development, and the home market. So this is a huge advantage that we are quite a big country with a huge potential, including the business tourism. I think Pavel wants to add something. Yes. The whole it's a closed circle, you know. The whole industry. When we speak about events, participants don't come because there's no speakers. Or there are no exponents, and exponents don't come because there are no audience. And then it is growing bigger. At any kind of public event means a lot of infected people. Everyone dies. Somebody speaks about coffins, but I believe everyone who came here has noted that there is a very high level of security measures up to the accreditation that was without the presence of people. About these things, I think we should speak about in social media networks, in mass media. We have to say that the events are safe, and only this radio, so to say, housewife radio, will be effective. And I would like to thank everyone who is in the hall and everywhere. Everything is organized. Look, everyone is wearing masks. Only speakers don't wear masks. So thank you everyone for coming here. Thanks to the committee. It's really true. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks to all of our speakers online and offline. Thanks for listening us to the end. I hope the session was very useful for you. Thank you very much.